Our experience. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going first?
Yep, your Skype. You go first.
Okay. So.
Because S comes before J in the alphabet.
Clever. Clever. But I think you teach science. And it doesn't. But that's fine. So you've decided that you want to teach abroad. But now what?
So the first step is to see what jobs are on offer. You could do a Google search.
But like with any Google search, you might not get the best information, and you also might get biased information based on the advertising that school does.
And even if you find true international schools that are awesome and accredited, many of those schools will refer you to a hiring agency.
So when you're doing your search, there are two main agencies that you're going to come across. One is Search Associates and the other is ISS. Both of these companies charge a fee to the candidates and the schools.
And the price of this fee varies depending on what agency that you are working with.
And to work with these two companies, you as a teacher need to be licensed and the school has to be accredited.
And both teachers and schools are vetted, which basically means that teachers will have to have a background check as well as references that will be checked, and schools will be visited by a committee to ensure that they are an actual literal school as well as that they are following the rules and guidelines. These agencies provide job boards that allow you to search for positions.
And in these searches, you can actually filter it down based on what you teach, the age of student that you want to have, and what kind of school.
They also set up job fairs that are located all around the world. So when you start this process, it's a lot like dating.
Right. When you're setting up your profile for the different agencies, you've got your picture on there. You've got filters set for your own searches so you can find something that matches. You're filling out questionnaires about likes and dislikes and wants for yourself and for your career.
And just like the world of dating, there are going to be some things that send up yellow or even red flags for you. And number one is to make sure that you trust your gut. And then number two is a lot of these companies will provide you with a mentor-like person. Hit them with those questions that you have because you are paying, that's part of what your fee is for, is to pay for this person. So I decided to go with Search Associates, and because I was able to, I decided to go to one of their job fairs. When you go to the job fairs, there are usually 3-day events, and there are also 3 kind of steps to keep in mind when you're at the job fair. The first step is you will enter the ballroom, and in this ballroom, it's kind of like set up how it would be in your home school district, except for there are schools from all around the world, and they are set up behind tables with the jobs that they have available posted behind them. So you walk around and you kind of shop, and it's kind of like speed dating. You walk up to a school that you're interested in, and you have your CV or your resume in your hand, and you wait patiently in line. Once you get to the front of the line, you hand over your resume, and you give them your short elevator speech about who you are, why, what job you're interested in, and what experience you have. And they may ask you 1 or 2 follow-up or clarifying questions, and then they're going to give you a response of 3 responses. Either, yes, we would like to set up an interview with you. Yay. No. And they may or may not give you a reason. A lot of times it's because you don't have enough experience. And then a maybe, which usually turns into a kind of polite no. Step number 2 is, now that you've gotten a yes from a school, you're going to go to the interview. Now here's what was weird to me. These interviews were held in hotel rooms. And I talked to my mentor that you get from these agencies, or at least some of them, and she explained to me that just logistic wise, that's how it has to work, because there are 70 or 100 schools here. There's not enough private room for them to interview people. The hallways outside of the hotel room look very similar to what it would look like on your parent-teacher meeting night. outside of hotel room 102, where I was looking for my interview, there are a line of chairs. So I get there early because that's good interview etiquette. And I sit patiently in this chair. When they're ready for me, they call me in. And there may be anywhere between two. There's usually at least 2 people they're interviewing on their interview team, upward to 5 or more people, just depending on the school.
Wow.
And it's a typical interview.
Right.
But there comes a point in the interview where they stop asking questions about you and your skill set, and they start to sell the school to you. And that's a really good sign, because that means that they're interested in you coming to them. At the end of the interview, there's kind of another 3, right? They'll give you a kind of a polite, we're not interested. Or, can we set up a second interview? Which is a good thing. That means they're really interested in you, but maybe there's also somebody who's they're really interested in. And then the third one is, we would like to make you an offer. So, the third step in searching for schools, for jobs at a job fair, is once you get an offer. The schools will give you a time frame, and they're required to give you a time frame. Usually it's about 24 hours. Sometimes the schools try to push you to give them their answer sooner, because they have other people that they want to offer that job to if you don't accept. During that time, what you want to do is research that school. Some schools, a lot of schools will come with materials to give you. Sometimes it's paper materials. Some schools have, I've gotten flash drives from that school with lots of information on it.
That's really nice.
And other schools will all give you contact information for someone who currently works at the school, that they kind of feel matches with you. So like if you're a married couple, or if you're a family with kids, they try to give you somebody that matches, so you can ask pertinent questions. Use that time wisely and actually research the school. And most importantly, make sure that you have an answer for that school within that time frame. Sometimes you have multiple offers from multiple schools, so you're trying to do, and it's okay to let the schools know that, like, hey, Stephanie's school has offered me a position and this is what they're offering me. Can you make your offer a little better? But keep in mind that the schools have multiple people that they are talking to as well.
So I chose to go with Search Associates as well, but I chose a different route than Jamie. I did not go to the job fair. I used Skype to do all of my interviews, and I had some phone interviews. So the way that it began was that we emailed back and forth, usually with the school's director or their hiring manager, and that kind of escalates into a phone call. And if the phone call goes well, it's just kind of your basic interview. Again, kind of with Jamie's at the job fair, it's like your elevator speech. They just quickly want to kind of see if you're a match. If you are, they really want to get you in with a Skype interview so that you can kind of face-to-face with important people at the school. Also, like the job fair, it could be 2 people, it could be 1 person, it could be 5 people. For my interview with the school that we teach at now, did a Skype interview with like 5 or 6 people. It was our entire admin team. So as the interviewee, it was a little intimidating, but it was nice to have so many people to answer all of my questions. But when you're doing Skype interviews, there's a few special things that you need to consider, one of them being time difference. You could be interviewing with a school that's across the world from you, so you might be doing your interview at midnight because that's when they're at school. So you need to keep that in mind and schedule accordingly. Obviously, if it's a weekend for you, it shouldn't be an issue, but if you have school the next day and late nights are going to really mess up that next morning, think about it and make sure that you're honest with the school and say, hey, that's not a good day for me. Could we maybe move it to another day? Also, connectivity. So this is an internet thing. Internet isn't good all over the world.
No, it is not.
In America, it's pretty good. There are issues though. So you're gonna run into things like dropped calls, dropped videos. Just remember to be patient and have a plan B. For example, when I did my interview with the school that I work for now, the video call dropped 4, maybe 5 times. But I had the phone number of the principal who had an American phone, and he was able to call me between those so that we could continue the interview without much of a gap. The interview in total did end up taking somewhere around an hour and a half.
Wow.
With all the connection issues. But it went really well. Both parties were really patient, and everybody was just kind of rolling with the punches. So that's what a lot of international school teaching, job searching, all of it is. It's patience.
Yeah. So our main tips or takeaways from this whole video include:
Number 1, practice your interviewing skills. Some of you might be teachers that have been teaching for a long time, or maybe you've been working in another job for a long time and you haven't done an interview. It's really important to practice these skills and maybe just look up some basic interview questions and practice with a friend or a family member. Also, keep in mind that you might be dealing with people that English is not their first language, and you might be communicating with people that have a different cultural expectation than you. So you need to be sensitive to these things when doing your interview. Practice for them.
Number 2 is to ensure that if you go to a job interview that you have multiple good quality copies of your resume, because you will be handing them out like candy to the people hiring at the job fair.
Just making it rain.
Resumes.
Number 3 is that you want to make sure that when you are offered a job at a job fair or during a Skype interview or a phone interview, that you take the time to think about it. You don't want to immediately say yes to anybody. The reason for that is that if you do change your mind, you don't want to go back on your word, written or verbal. You want to maintain whatever agreement you have made. And the international school community is really small.
Yeah.
So if you go back on your word, that gets spread very quickly throughout the community, and it might make it difficult for you to get another job.
And lastly, number 4 is to be patient, to be genuine, and most importantly, to trust your gut throughout this process.
Definitely.
So in our next video, we're going to cover what things do you need to think about before you start your search and during your search for an international teaching job.
Thanks again for joining us, and please make sure to like, comment, and share this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell down below so that you can be notified whenever we post new content, hopefully to answer your questions. See you later!
Ooh, why am I doing this?
Da 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 da. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
再见.
Adios.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Ahoy.
Ooh. Bon voyage. Bye.
Hola.
That's hello. Girl, bye.